Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Harvest Moon. Last episode we got pretty far. We got all the cows now. In this episode, we're going to be trying to get through winter. Like as fast as possible. I'm going to try to speed things up even faster with this. Okay. Fact, I think I'm actually going to do some more cutting and editing. I thought about doing it before to cut and edit some of the stuff of when I was going through stuff. But I think because there's nothing really interesting going around, it's just winter and I'm just doing errands, I'm going to be doing some editing. So I'll be seeing you guys when I'm done feeding the animals. See you guys then. And we're back. Now we're just gonna wait for the new verdict on how much money we made with the new milk. Shouldn't be too much more. I'm also wondering if I should think about what I'm gonna do over here. Also, the earthquake did take down the well, which is down here. Strange ornament of a chicken looks like it can be broken with a tool. I can't read what that one says because it's blocked. I'd be able to go to the end of the ranch faster through here, but time still goes on. I see a mole. It scares cows sometimes. You better kick it out of the fence right away. Two o'clock now. Secret garden, no entry allowed. The secret garden is how many hearts that you've gotten throughout the playthrough from people and animals alike. Also, I really need it to be the end of winter soon because I feel like I'm going to be running out of fodder if it doesn't. I went from 999 to 600. 1850. Rap, rap. Okay, shop's closed because it's Saturday. Excuse me, but can I borrow your hammer? Okay, I won't use it. Thank you, I'll put up more power into it when I return it. I have to wonder if going through that thing activates that cutscene, because I swear he usually appears shortly after the earthquake, so I don't know why it took him that long to appear this time, other than me not going through the, tunnel. just milk this one, so clean this one. This one. Might save the last one as a gift, not sure yet. Just gonna feed them for right now. Alternatively, if you didn't have animals, you could just sleep through winter, honestly. If you had good money. But since it's the first year, I don't think that would be possible, given buying the third upgrade of the house and everything else. Alright, we're gonna give this one out, I think. I think the milk has the same value as a... Well, not the same value as a cake, but close. Since I can't buy one for the next couple... ouch, my funds. I didn't move right when I should have moved right. Okay. Well, at least I have egg backup. One game I missed was Friends of Mineral Town, because it was a very good game, very well fleshed out, including a more Friends of Mineral Town adaptation. Also, a disclaimer, I think I mentioned this already, but I'm going to say it again. I do not like modern-day Harvest Moon. The recent releases, starting with New Beginning, they kind of just start falling flat after that. You think they would be great, considering they had more customization options, things were, you know, better looking than ever, but things just started to fall flat as far as character designs for me, and story. Things started to seem more like DLC bait. There were some things that you could just only buy if you had a certain copy, or if you had, bought DLC. Or things started to get very bizarre. So, I should probably mention, I really love Harvest Moon Grand Bazaar, but I think that there's some elements of it that are quite annoying that would venture me to not beat it or finish it all the way through. To the end. That being the end of everything you could do with it, by the way. It was a great concept for a game, but they started taking elements from it, like Tale of Two Towns. It was very annoying in certain aspects. There were certain things that were way too obscure or hard to do. For simple things that would normally be simple. Just started doing things in a way too advanced light for what the thing actually was. Which made it very hard to enjoy. I remember playing it and just thinking to myself, yeah, that's not great. which is unfortunate because it is a newer Harvest Moon game, and Tales of Two Towns unfortunately had a lot of instances that were both unique from a gameplay perspective, but also very much discouraging as a player. There wasn't that much quality of life, and at the end of the day, the time and distance it took you to do certain things was so much, like, in the inefficiency department that it made you feel like you were wasting your time, which Harvest Moon shouldn't do, or a game in general shouldn't make you feel like you're wasting your time. It's kind of why I like games like this more now that I'm older, is they actually have an end when it comes to Harvest Moon games, because I feel like, unless you're a special case, the Harvest Moon styled game is going to fail in the sense of making you feel like it's efficient and just generally well-rounded system that doesn't waste much time. The exhibit A I give is the fact that I really love Animal Parade, and I think that it's a great game. It has a lot of elements to it that are amazing, but the fact that it takes you so long to get anywhere, the fact that you have to get horses up to 5 hearts before you can even use them, the fact that like, just generally, the fact that horses have to have a certain heart percentage before they can even be ridden, which is realistic, but the fact that the hearts take so long to get is very hard from a gameplay perspective to see that as being efficient. The fact that animals have a lifespan means that you have to rush to get the hearts before the animals die. Now, these things are all well and good from a first-time playthrough or a gameplay perspective, but if you're playing the game constantly from scratch, or because you want to see different endings, because there's different endings you can get depending on what character you end up with, even just straight-up different endings again if you play the game over again, which admittedly gets you really cool gardening tools if you manage to beat the game, which requires a couple of really weird things that normally in Harvest Moons didn't require that. Yeah, it just required a lot of ifs, ands, and buts for the major part. Animal Parade is a great first-time experience, but I feel like there's so many quality of life issues that if you were to play the game again after that, you really wouldn't like it as much, which is a shame because the game has a lot of potential to be good. But the fact that you have to walk so long to get anywhere, the fact that time moves so slow in response, ain't great. I feel like if just the time went like 100% faster or 200% faster, it would be such a good experience as a Harvest Moon if it just went that much faster for the time, because I tell you, it feels like one in-game day in Animal Parade takes about 30 minutes. Which is bad. Especially if you're counting all the time that you spend in the house. In a game like this, I take my time doing things, yeah, and it does take me a while to get things sold. And to feed the animals again, and to get to another day. But time is still progressing. I mean, it's currently the 15th of winter. If I was playing Animal Parade right now, I started on the very first beginning of the save. Meaning the first introduction. I would likely still be on day 2. Right now. With just the last couple episodes combined, I would probably still be on day 2. I wouldn't be venturing towards the 17th. I wouldn't be anywhere close. Even if I was rushing, by the way. Which is sad. I feel like you can miss out on a lot of events because certain things did take a long time to do. And sure, time did move fast then, but then as soon as you get to the event portion of it, you have to wait so long just for time to pass. So there needs to be a balancing thing there. I have actually almost never, in my entire time playing Animal Parade, ever gotten to like 5 p.m. Mostly I just did everything that I could do in like an hour in the game time, which took about 10 to 15 minutes, roughly, depending on what I had to do. And then I was done for the day, and I just kept doing that, and I was like, this game is going very fast. But also very slow. Like, there was really no reason for me to go to the town, because it took too long to walk there. There was no real reason for me to go to the stores, because it took way too long to get there. Like, unless you had very specific things, like you wanted to go to the forest to get, unless you wanted to go to the forest specifically to get lumber, there was really no reason for you to go to the wooded area. Like, despite the fact that there are characters there, and you could really use getting their FP up because of certain events that they do that are actually important, especially to the game's story on occasion, depending on who they are, to find out more information about the game. Because the issue I see is Animal Parade also has a system where you have to get a certain amount of hearts with everyone in order to see specific events. Which is fine. But, again, Tree of Tranquility and Animal Parade both suffer from having too much distance to walk. And when there is a reprieve from you being able to go and use a horse, or any of your animals, really, which was a neat feature, it just still was too slow. And by the way, even if you could use your horse, it still took you, like, a good chunk of your time to go anywhere. Like, it really did take a good chunk. Even using a horse, which is the fastest... Well, second fastest, I think, actually. I'm not sure. I don't remember if there's ostriches in the game. It would be second fastest to the ostrich, probably. But still, the fact that still remains that it takes you so long with a horse, which... Going through the game in any of the games, aside from the, like 2D DS ones, like Tale of Two Towns, most of the games, using a horse was actually so efficient and so useful, and you felt really good about using it, and, you know, everything else. But in a lot of the newer games these days, I noticed that using a horse is very slow. And not really up to par with what a horse would actually run at, speed-wise. Like, I get it if you were just galloping, but... the horse is moving like it's sprinting, not galloping. So, yeah. Anyway, that ends my rant over the fact that I think that I still have the philosophy that games should have you move as quickly as it is big, so that you basically don't get the sign of, well, I feel like I'm wasting my time walking around these areas. You have to make it satisfying for the person playing by means of environment or things to do, or it needs to be quick enough to where the person doesn't feel agitated by how slow it's moving. I feel like that's where a lot of open world games suffer at. They have such a big world, they don't really know what to put in it. The environments are fine, but they're not great. The fact that random stuff could happen in your run isn't so great. It's good, but it's also not great when it's glitchy, which some open world games do, calling out Skyrim specifically. Yeah. Like, when there's not enough stuff in the world to make it interesting, then moving around in a very big open world place just feels empty. Which is what I get a lot from games like Skyrim, Oblivion. Well, Oblivion is actually better because when I see Oblivion, I see a fully well thought out game. Skyrim, there are areas you can go to, but unfortunately they just feel very empty. And the map feels empty. Which feels natural, but at the same time it feels like so much more could have been done. That being said, the amount of movement that you get in games like that versus the amount of actual time spent isn't a good margin. I also look at games like Breath of the Wild and the clips I've seen of that, it's the same issue. I really wish people, when they make open world games, they'd stop making them so empty. Because I feel like open world games were a thing that everyone wanted, but as soon as we got it, it was unfinished and broken of a concept. And it's unfortunate. Because I love the concept of open world games, it's just a lot of the open world type games that I see, they just sacrifice a lot of really key important gameplay elements, including story, for the sake of being open world. Which I feel like no game should do. No game should take out of the cut that is going into the story. Meaning the cost. The story should have the most cost. Which is something that I really love about indie games these days, is they're actually focusing on the key elements of story. Not just because it's important to the game, but also if they don't do that, they can't really compete with, AAA games that can afford to have so many graphics and loyal game bases and all that, or fan bases, that'd be willing to pay money for the game. Like, indie game developers don't have that luxury, but yet a lot of their games feel a lot more polished and finished. I find that out more recently when I play stuff like Sea of Stars, and I just realize that anybody can make a really good RPG if they take time and actually, focus on what makes an RPG good. And it's just sad that we have so many games these days that just don't follow that sort of regimen. Yay! 8 more cows. They can be milked. Anyway, I just think it's an important thing, looking back at video game history, of what is it that made games back then? Well, they were fun. Some of the games that were around didn't need to have a story to be good. They were platformers. They were... Oops. Well, I'm not going to get the total for having all of this milk until tomorrow. But yeah. And a lot of them, the ones that didn't even need story, the ones that went by the show don't tell, they had their own good merits, too. It's not to say all games back then were good, because there were a lot of games that were just as bad as today that get made, because bad games have been made since games were made. But I think the margin for bad games today is significantly higher, because the methodology used for what is a good standard to follow for games isn't great. I feel like when it comes to farming games even, the best thing to go for is indie games. And also I liked a game called My Time at Portia, but lately I've fallen out of love for that game because I realize that game makes you feel like you're wasting a lot of time. Or the game is very inflated for the fact that that is one game that gives you what you want, but not in the method you asked for. Stating that the game is good, but I think that the the idea of having a full year to play the game, like every month in a year that you have to play, means it's going to be a while before you can see different seasons and experience other parts of the game, which means that, yeah, it's going to take a long time, like actual real time, playing through a season, because every day in that game takes a lot to go through. And time, the only thing that is a saving grace, I guess, is that the days, I believe, go very fast. But also not fast enough when you consider that the game takes place over the course of a year. And full year at that. Where Harvest Moon type games, they always go by the 30-day period for a season. The reason for that wasn't just for the player to, like, well, the reason for that wasn't just because of limitations. It was also so that the player could experience all 4 seasons within a decent amount of time and not get, bored or disinterested. The reason why this format is still kept on is because of that methodology, where you want the player to experience enough of the game without feeling bored and feel like things are changing enough. Because without change, when it comes to a Harvest Moon game, it gets boring. That's why Stardew Valley, I think, succeeded in that way. Not only because it felt like a riff on this game, it felt like a reignited Harvest Moon, but also because it genuinely played better and felt better to play because of these things, these thoughtful things that were taken into consideration. Because I feel like a lot of Harvest Moon type games now, they just want to be the new viral thing, having a system that nobody else has, but not really understanding what it takes programming-wise to do that. Not only if they're fans, but even enjoy it as a concept. But, yeah, like ones like Kinseed that advertise you get to play as generational, you get to play as your generations go down the list, like Fire Emblem in a way. Certain Fire Emblem games that do that, where you play as the kids of the character that you played or got together with, and then different things would play out. Like Harvest Moon style games are now trying to play into that philosophy of having that kind of gameplay, but not really understanding how it works. And games like that go into early access feel very much like they're trying to take your money. Like, Kinseed got accused of that as well. Not being updated enough. And then kind of just falling back on what they promised. Such as games like that. There's a lot of games that try to promise stuff like that, and then they end up not actually being able to fulfill what they promised, especially in early access. As a result of that, I feel like it kind of demeans early access as a type in Steam, as a result of games like this getting made, because I feel like it targets these games the most, because I feel like every time I look, there's always a new early access farming game, and even My Time at Portia was in early access for a long time, which now is being turned into a franchise and isn't even really being updated anymore, and you're just expected to move on to the next $50 game that comes by. It's not great. I feel like Harvest Moon games are unfortunately, the styled games, are unfortunately going to die out someday or another. Until finally a new titan emerges, like, say, Stardew Valley. I feel like Stardew Valley is going to be timeless, but I feel like when it comes to Harvest Moon games, they're going to become separated and very niched. And that there's not really going to be a fan base for one whole one. Just there's going to be a fan base for separate ones, which is fine. But just saying that I think that the fan base for Harvest Moon type games is going to become very divided in the coming years. I feel like Stardew Valley is the only Harvest Moon type game that's uniting a lot of fans of the Harvest Moon type genre. But once that ends up not updating anymore and the guy ends up going on to something else, I wonder what's going to happen to the game then. But anyway. That does it for this episode. Next episode of Harvest Moon. We'll be going through more days of winter. Alrighty. Just gonna go through a couple things. Once you got the people to have a party, okay. I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. See you guys then.